This week, Ming Loo, Director of the Cyber Operations and Resilience Program at Boise State University and Idaho National Labs, joins us to discuss cybersecurity workforce development. In the security news, Rorschach, QNAP, and Sudo. Why bother signing things? Why bother having a password? Why bother updating firmware? Smart screenshotting, TP-Link Oh My, music with Grub 2, byte arrays and UTF-8. What is my Wi-Fi password? Debian and Systemd should never be used in the same sentence. Opening garage doors, because hackers can do that. Downgrade your firmware to be more secure. Exploit databases. This is like a movie. Unsolved CTFs and near ultrasound inaudible Trojans. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. When organizations face poor web performance, challenges building modern applications at scale, or need to reduce operational and development costs, they turn to Fastly. Fastly's distributed edge network means your business can unleash its growth potential without worrying about scaling your infrastructure, whether growth of users, transaction volume, or geographic expansion. Get the speed, security, and edge cloud innovation you need to deliver profitable and engaging experiences. Visit securityweekly.com/Fastly for more information or to speak to an expert.
In 1833, Frédéric Chopin released his Opus 10, number 12 in C minor, The Revolutionary. Tonight, the maestro Paul Asadorian will reproduce the piece on the piano here in the studio. Welcome, Paul.
Welcome, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. It's episode number 778, being recorded on April 5th, 2023, in G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. Doug, why does Python live on land?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know jokes.
It's above sea level. Welcome,
God,
Dr.
help
Doug.
me. No puns. No sea puns. I refuse.
It's very punny.
Sea lions.
What's going on, man? It's good to have. We're drinking martinis, sitting here in the studio, having
like
cigars.
The good times.
Oh, we have a show to do too, right? Mr. Sam, Sam, are those suspenders? Are you doing the belt and suspenders? Or just suspenders?
Nope, just suspenders.
Just suspenders. Very nice to have you this evening, Sam. Mr. Josh Marpet is here with us. Josh, welcome.
Thank you so much. So does martini just mean a fancy word for straight vodka in a glass?
Yes.
That's what it means.
What it means. Maybe with a little splash of something. This case, olive juice.
Yeah.
None of that
works
vermouth.
for me.
None of that vermouth stuff.
Nah. Pointless.
Mr. Tyler Robinson is here with us. Tyler, welcome.
What's going on? Good to see you.
Did you track down those hackers I sent you earlier?
Dude, we should talk about that.
Can you remind me to talk about that on the show? On the news
we'll talk
segment?
about some of that on the show, maybe. Yeah,
because we got hacked. We got hacked, but fortunately for us, it was lame, like super lame. It was kind of shame on them.
Shame on them.
I think they'll take that as a challenge.
You picked the wrong Linux server to hack. Security Weekly listeners save $100 on their RSA or your RSA Conference 2023 full conference pass. RSA Conference will take place April 24th through the 27th in San Francisco and on demand. To register using our discount code, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC 2023 and use the code 53UCyber. Mr. Lee Neely has joined us in between announcements. Lee Neely, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be here. You know, I used to be addicted to soap, but I'm clean now.
I love it. I wanted to give our listeners a heads up on a relatively new podcast here on the Security Weekly Network. It's called Eclipsium's Below the Surface. Myself and Scott Schefferman have hosted folks like Vince Zimmer, Nicholas Stark, and today we recorded an interview with Richard Hughes, the founder of LVFS and FWUpd. which are firmware update system and a vendor interface to get your firmware updated on Linux systems. You can find out more at eclipsium.com/podcast and visit our subscribe page at securityweekly.com/subscribe. Ming Loo is the program director for the Cyber Operations and Resilience program at Boise State University and Idaho National Lab. He is also a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Boise State University. He holds a joint appointment with Idaho National Laboratory. Ming, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
It's good to have you here tonight, Ming. I feel like I have this strong connection with you, even though we've only spent a small amount of time together. I feel like you and I should go out. We should have some beers and cigars or something.
Yes. Sadly, can sit across from you and have a drink with you.
Yes, be fabulous. Ming, how did you get your start, like in information security and security research?
I kind of get started probably about 20 some odd years ago when I was a grad school in Huntsville, Alabama, Huntsville, and back then we're working on basically taking the algorithm, encryption algorithm and decryption algorithm, and implementing them in. I think there was one language called Handle C. It's a C-based language, and see how quickly the implementation can be compared to a HDL implementation. It was cool. And then, there are certain things that you can finish, a certain topic that you can finish a PhD, and certain thing that you can't. Computer engineering is actually very difficult to finish a PhD. Yeah, trust me. So
wait, hold on. I want to go back. So it's very difficult to finish a PhD in computer science. Is that
computer engineering
side?
I believe computer engineering is could potentially be even more difficult because computer engineering has a tendency to be very applied. Right, and so I end up getting into doing a lot of resources allocation and scheduling algorithm related to FPGA, if you know what FPGA is. And then that got me to a PhD, and lucky enough in 2003 got me 3 faculty job at 3 different universities, but I came to BSU, Boise State. But then I kind of got away from a lot of that stuff, but there's probably about 6 years ago when it's because my background in embedded system and system integration and got me into a meeting with Idaho National Lab, and that's when everything else got started. So, but the truth is, cybersecurity research is important, but my passion is in the workforce development. The kids. How can we get kids interested, and how can we get them to the education pathway, and also what are the people that is in the workforce now? And there are so many has told me and came to us and tell us that, hey, my career has reached to a point, my organization needed me to have a degree to move on to the next big thing. So how can we help? So
it's an interesting transition, Ming, from, I mean, you were doing, it briefly described some of the research you were doing on embedded systems and IoT stuff. And then I want to get into, like, you made that transition into, I want to lead a program and basically help make the world a better place by giving people some degrees in cybersecurity. Not giving, allowing them to earn.
No. To me, it's not just giving it. Yes, it's giving it, but it is. I don't want them to just knowing how to enter a command line, scan a network. I want them to understanding what is the big picture, because in some way entering a command and scanning a network is a rabbit hole. But the question is, can you stick your neck up the rabbit hole and see what the heck is going on outside? Because it's much more than that.
You have very wise advice and philosophy when it comes to teaching people, Ming. So, like, what went into, I'm more of a security researcher on the academic side, to I want to teach other people and do this. What led to that transition?
What led to that transition from
like doing more academic security research, getting your PhD, and making that transition into being able to lead and teach people?
I think it's because the impact look, for probably about 15 years, I graduated probably 22, 25 master thesis student and 4 PhD. And every single one
Holy
of them
crap.
are doing very
Wait,
well.
did you say you said you have 4 PhDs?
No, 4
he
PhD
graduated
student
4
that I
PhDs.
graduated.
Okay.
other
Yeah,
students.
Josh and I both heard that incorrectly. I apologize.
No. One. If you get, PhD stand for permanent head image. If you got one of them, is enough. so that's what my kid
Piled
told
higher
me.
and deeper. It's piled higher and deeper. Get it
Piled-
right. Come
right.
on, man.
Pa high and deep, or the other one is permanent head image. There is something wrong with you if you finish a PhD. Trust me. That's what my wife tell me. But what I saw is, I think that in itself is not a big enough impact. If you really design a proper program and manage the program, build the program, and get the program to run correctly, you can really impact hundreds of thousands of students for times to come. So I think it's probably kind of like maybe it's a legacy thing, or maybe it is my attention deficit disorder that I have to be doing something new every 2 to 3 years.
I just
is it for the fame, the money, and the glory? Because it doesn't sound that way.
There's no money in academia. Trust me. I probably have brought in probably 5 to 7, or could be all the collaboration throughout a year could be by $7 to $10 million. I still get paid the same. So
yeah.
So there is no bonus, and you can work however hard that you want, however many hours that you want, and you in a way, people like myself, we are our own worst enemy.
In what way?
In what way is because a plate is the fixed size, right? You just keep putting the amount of things and new things on your plate, and you teach and you do research, you write a proposal, you work with students, you ramp up program, and sometimes if you don't get things off your plate, you could end up getting yourself into a lot of health issues. So
it sounds like you've, like many of us, Sing Ming, struggled with that work-life balance, right? Thrown yourself into your work and have had to learn how to deal with it. I think most of us have been there.
So look, the Cyber Operation Resilience Program, right? The initial proposal, a lot of idea from industry professional and Idaho National Lab, and also another faculty, Larry Liebrock, that I know pretty well. We wrote the initial proposal in late 2019 and early 2020. So we took it from the business plan to conceptual and finding the seed money to build the program into a self-sufficient program. So that's probably about 3 years worth of work. In some way, I haven't had a proper vacation for 3 years. Yeah. So.
And so obviously it's a lot of work to get that program. What goes into getting a program like that off the ground at a larger institution like you're at, in collaboration with a national laboratory?
It is first you have, because it depends if you wanted the university or the state to give you the money to build things, you're going to be waiting for years. So I went with the route of found a Idaho Workforce Development Council funded our seed proposal. So from there, and I work with people within the university. Trust me, this is not my own work. There's a lot of people make this all possible. So you're talking about from the conceptual idea all the way to business plan, and then working with eCampus and instructional designer and recruiting the cybersecurity professional. Because look, let's put it this way, academia will never be able to afford to pay a cybersecurity professional that has master and PhD degree. So I end up going out there recruiting the professional to come in and help me on a specific piece that I carve out on the big picture, right? So got to do that, and got to do paperwork to get it to the university process, the bureaucracy, the red tape, and then get it to the state level and state board of education to get the program approved. And then one is there, and then you got to worry about marketing and recruiting, which I have people to help do. I will forever grateful to a lot of people that helped throughout the process. And then now, when you have the student and you got to launch the program and manage the program to make sure students are taken care of. So as usual, 10% of the time, 10% of the students take up 90% of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The
So,
professors in the house are nodding along with you, Sing Ming, Sam, and Doug.
Yep. Trust me, I've been doing this 20 years, and I can probably know exactly when they're gonna say something before they even finish it. I know what's coming, and someday, and it's kind of like when you work strictly nonstop 3 years, is to a point. Lately, everything and anything can trigger.
Yeah.
super
Yes.
anger to me to a point. Trust me, I really needed to learn how to hone it down and dial it back a little bit. Cannot be going 200% at all the time, is because if not, if I don't take care of myself, the student won't be taking care of it. Won't be able to be taken care of by me if I'm not fully myself.
Yeah. No, that's some sage advice. Sam, you're nodding right along with it. I think you've share a lot of similarities in your passions with Sing Ming.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. I mean, colleges are very strange places to work, and you have to learn how to cope with the politics and the students and all the regulations and everything. It's real easy to ram your head against a wall and get exhausted. But it's an amazing program you've got there. I was looking over it on the.
Thank you. I'll tell you this. And guess what? When I built this program, it is completely self-sufficient program. The tuition dollar fund the operation. The way why it works is because we have we launched a program, work closely with the community colleges in the industry, and also we have marketing and recruiting, and it is self-sufficient. Guess what? I was worrying about not self-sufficient in 3 years, right? Because when we set up self-sufficient program, right? The university gave us permission to run the program into the red for 3 years. So by the beginning of 4th year, it better be in the black. So we were so lucky, and we have the foresight to put a lot of things together. In fact, we were in the black right out of the gate in the first semester in the August of 2021. But I also, because of the different funding, different sources, I wasn't charging much of my time to the program too, even though within the higher ed education system, if you think about it, I'm probably considered as expensive, but in the bigger scheme of thing, I'm not that expensive. But if I'm not charging my time or as much, and I can help the program to be very self-sufficient. So in a way, that am I sacrificing myself? Maybe yes, maybe no, but I needed to make sure the program can survive long term.
Is your program exportable?
Say that one more time.
Is your program exportable? Could other universities, other institutions use it?
Can they use it? I haven't had the time to think about that. I think what you're asking me is, can we license it? I don't see any problem with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Sing Ming, I want to talk about who the program is designed for. Who is in business, right? We call that your TAM, your total addressable market, right? So what does that look like in terms of your program? Like, who are the personas and what's your addressable market for your program?
Okay. The first one is non-traditional student. If you think about, you have a lot of security professional, probably have finished an associate degree or never ever finished the degree, right? We design a degree box, and also there's a potential to get credit for prior learning. If you have certification, there's a way to potentially claim some credit. Okay. And so there's non-traditional student that is working in the industry. That's one of them. The other one is community colleges student. Usually community colleges student are what the name of their degree is called AAS, Associate of Applied Science degree, right? It is not AS, not a Associate of Science degree. AAS degree usually has no or complicated transfer pathway into a 4-year degree to get an undergraduate degree. In most cases, they have to start from scratch. So we figure it all out, and guess what? I will be forever grateful to our administration people and also State Board of Education in helping me figure out a lot of things. Guess what? Idaho, land-wise, is pretty big, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty small state. And the truth is, I have had a lot of fun this last 6 to 7 years. and to figure all this out to help a lot of students because the
Now,
early
Sing-Ming,
science.
I want to go back to the you've gone to
Go
a
ahead.
community college. Does
Yep.
that mean you've gotten your associate's degree, or what you're saying is you don't necessarily have to complete your associate's degree, but whatever credits you've accumulated will transfer into your program?
Yes. We made it transfer. Even let's say you take some kind of community colleges, our degree box is so flexible because the thing is this: to be a good cybersecurity professional, computer science or engineering degree is actually not a suitable degree to be a to be cybersecurity professional. In some way, cybersecurity professional, if you have IT support background,
Yes,
networking
agree.
background, is actually much better background because it's a
Yeah.
bigger picture. Because the problem with engineering and computer science, I myself is in it too, is that sometimes we've gone into deep silo of how to write code and build a system. We forgot how to protect it. We only figure out at the end. That's not helpful.
I agree. I have like a meme scheduled in my social media that like speaks to that, and my caption is like when real developers look at my code, they're like, that works, but the implementation is horrible. I'm like, yeah, because like I didn't study computer science. Like, yeah, I can like write some code and hack some stuff. And I think that a lot of people will confuse those things, right? And like building real software and doing engineering, there is an absolute need for that, right? Especially here in the US. But that's not necessarily, or in most cases, not a requirement to work in cybersecurity.
No, because cybersecurity, what people sometimes don't get at the end of the day is people, process, and technology. It is not programming. But if you build better system, it's less hackable. It does not mean it's unhackable.
Yes.
So right there is the difference because at the end of the day, what's at one point in time people put it up to me and say it's a Swiss cheese approach. And hopefully the hole doesn't line up. If the hole lines up, you're in trouble no matter what anyway. So,
and I want to, Dr. Doug White taught me about this hack, which, and it sounds like Sing-Ming, you two are in sync on this issue, which is hilarious because you both have PhDs. And Doug told me, he's like, dude, the hack is, and this doesn't apply to Rhode Island. We've talked about it on the show before. You go to community college for free. Most states, you can, as long as it's your first entry, at least in Rhode Island, it's your first entrance into college. So maybe you're coming out of high school and you're going into college. If you go to the community college, the state will cover 100% of your tuition. Mm-hmm. And I tell people that are getting into cybersecurity, because Doug told me this, again, which is ironic, because you're PhD, that this is a great hack. Hold on, come out of high school, do 2 years of school for free, and then find a program that you can transfer those credits. And it's essentially you're walking into a college with a 50% discount. Is that?
Yeah.
You do correct me if I'm wrong.
Actually, it can be more than that.
Can be more than that.
Undergraduate degree is 120 credit hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Associate degree, whether it's AS or AAS, is usually ranges from 60 to 65. Okay. There are some degree program, like the way I designed it, right, is there's a possible for you to complete 80 credit hour at community colleges. So what you do is you complete an AAS degree and then get the rest of your general education done. So what they call a Gen Ed certified, right? Once you do that, it's close to 80 credit hour, and most regional, which is most university, regional or national, or usually regional accredited university, right? Which is most state university and university are that, is the requirement is you have to finish the last 40 credit hour of upper division credit hour for you to graduate there. So there is a possibility for you to complete 80 at community colleges. Think about the hands-on experience, because community colleges, the classes usually sizes are much smaller. You really get to work with some hands-on closely with people, really learn a lot.
Yeah. Now, Sam, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you there, Sing-Ming, because Sam works at a community college. And so what everyone's saying, Sam, you're digging what we're throwing down, right?
Oh, he's got the point. I mean, at huge universities, the introductory courses tend to be huge classes with like hundreds of students. And at a community college, just 20 or something. So you probably get much more help and much more individual instruction and more hands-on to start at a community college.
Wow.
Yeah, yes.
This is
Yeah.
so important for our audience to hear, by the way. I just want to put that out there. If
Well-
you're in the audience, like, pay attention to what we're saying. We're basically giving you the hacks
But
to get your degree at the lowest cost. And if you're in cybersecurity, have a really high degree of success in getting a job when you come out.
But
I'm sure all of your respective programs, there's 3 professors here tonight on the show, right, have a super high rate of job placement. I know, Singmin, you told me you have a super
absolutely.
high rate. Yeah, Sam too.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Those students-
gonna put one negative on that just for the audience, and
Yeah, please do. I don't want to paint a perfect picture.
yeah.
That's great.
So if you're doing this, and I completely concur, be sure you review carefully though what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you that I have worked with community colleges that were amazing, that turned out awesome students, that had programs that were really, really good. But I also have worked with some that we wouldn't even accept their credits because they were so terrible. And so as you go down this road,
Check first. In other words.
and the way I'm going to tell you how to check this is you need to look at 2 things. You need to look at the catalog. So what am I going to study? And you need to look at who's teaching it. So when you go there and you see that Sam is teaching it, you go, okay, that's a good thing. And I mean, it's a little tough to discern, but you can look at these people and you can figure out who they are. And when so you got to be a little bit careful, because not every community college has the same standards as every other community. Just like every university doesn't have the same standards as every other one. I tell people the same thing about cybersecurity programs. I'm like, you know, look at the catalog and see what you're studying and who's teaching it. You know, is it some dusty old professor that they dragged out of, you know, that used to be a professor of typing? And I've seen that. I'm not making it up. Who knows absolutely nothing about this, who's now teaching, you know, hacking 105, you know, and you're looking, who is this guy? I never heard of him.
I want the Professor, Doug, that has Rick from Rick and Morty and Archer drinking together on their T-shirt. Can I get that?
You can, but you'll be sorry. My students are all out there going, "Don't take Doug, he's so hard."
Well, one thing.
So I will point out, I'm going to expand on what Doug said, is that there are some 4-year colleges that are just as bad.
No, and I said that too. I mean, absolutely. I'm not just saying it's about community college. It's exactly what Josh said. Not Joff. Where is Josh?
Josh,
He's in here.
he has band practice on Wednesday nights now.
I
Middle-age crisis.
completely agree with that. Here's why: is because community colleges usually sometimes the pay to their instructor is much lower compared to the university, right? Sometimes they really have trouble recruiting people that they really need to be in their classroom. So they have people, they could be 2 extreme: those that really passionate and those that should not even be there.
Well, I'll give you an example. It's not from Rhode Island. It's from a long, long time ago, like more than 20 years ago. But we had a community college near the university where I worked then, and I kept getting students from them. And I was teaching advanced C programming. So I was teaching like C, like the 3rd computer science class I was teaching. And I would get these students and they would fail. And they had no idea what was going on. And I was like, who are these students? And so somebody questioned, you know, why are you failing like 10 students every semester? And I'm like, I don't know. We need to find out who these people are. And we found out. They were all going to this one community college, and the guy who taught C there did not like C. I met with him, and he said, C is stupid. I teach Maverick Basic. And I was like, what the hell is Maverick Basic? And he was like, it's a basic version I developed myself. And I said, so you're teaching people basic and telling them they're taking C, and then they enroll in advanced C, and they fail it. And he was like, well, your class is stupid too. You should teach Maverick Basic. And I was like, so I'd have a student that's got like this class called, you know, C1 and C2, and the students walk in my class and they go, what is this language we're learning?
What is a pointer?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they didn't know.
You should know that if you're going into an advanced C class, you should know what a pointer is.
It was crazy. And I went and met this person, and he was an imbecile. He had no business teaching, you know, hamsters how to code, let alone, you know, students that were going to transfer to the university and flunk out.
I want to transfer this back to Singming, and I want to ask you, Singming, what design decisions did you make in the program to set your students up for success? I think that's a question based on what we were just talking about, right?
This what I set out to do is give them the big picture and understand what system thinking is, and able to question their own thinking. Is because in cybersecurity, you got to potentially make a lot of call on the roll. Are you making the right call? But by me making that decision, right, it helped those students with some background, very helpful to them, but it's not, what I have found is actually not as helpful to some of the traditional students, because they are questioning, why am I studying this and working on this? And then that is one thing. So, and also want to give them as much hands-on experience as I possibly can. And then I also set up the degree box where they're going to need to have some internship or some kind of experience before they graduate from the program, hopefully to set them up to be more successful finding a full-time job. And guess what? As you probably know, being a parent is there always unintended consequence when you make a decision for your kid. And there's a lot of unintended consequence of some of the decision I made for degree too. So what I end up doing is somehow, I'm not sure why I'm smart enough to do that, is there's a lot of flexibility in the degree box, allow us to make adjustment for different students. And it has to be a sensible adjustment, because I have my line too, the baseline that I will never cross because of my academic. Can you call it an academic ego or academic freedom or whatever it is? There are some baseline that I will never cross, that I will never approve, is because it can jeopardize a lot of future things that we're going to do. So
yeah, hold on. What don't you make exceptions for, Sing-Ming, or adjust for?
If somebody say, come to me that they got some of this certification that can I get this particular credit hour? I look at it and look it up and say, no, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Certification in itself is a can of worm. And I even talk to students too. They actually are university out there is you're not going there to learn, you are going there to get yourself certified with a bunch of certification. And some of them a lot of their students couldn't even find job, is because certification in itself can be a good thing or a can of worm, but what kind of experience do you have? When you go to interview, have you have any work experience? Do you have any war story to tell? How do you go about solving a problem? And there right there is probably the key. And knowing how to take a certification test, maybe it's important, but the word doesn't work like certification test,
It just proves you're good at taking certification tests.
Yes, correct.
So if I need an employee who can take tests, I know where to look.
But especially if the certification is solely test-based.
Yeah. I mean, that was why, like, CCE is a forensic certification that I work with, and, it has practical exams, because we don't want just people that are good at memorizing lists of things. We want somebody who can actually do a forensic exam. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. How do you keep students from sort of weaseling their way out of things? Because they're not good students, but you're always going to have students who say, well, this is very flexible, I'm going to find the easiest path through. How do you keep them on a path to an actual job? I mean, is there some component that you use to tie them to, oh, you want to work as this, here's the classes you should take, or how do you do that?
Maybe the short answer is, like any system, there will always be some crap that go through, and the good student has no problem going to. I'm sorry, I'm telling you the truth.
No, I'm completely in agreement with you.
And I like how you articulated that.
I'm sorry, and some of the way I put it might have make some people really mad at me, but I'm a really straightforward person. I tell you what I wanted to tell you, but and so there will always be not as good one going to. There's not much I can do. But the thing is, if the thing is this, every student, especially traditional, non-traditional student, everybody have complication in their life. If I say I have 2 hours in this assignment and I'm going to get a C or get a B just to get to the class and complete the degree and move on to the next greater thing, so be it. It happens. And I'm okay with that. As long as they don't come say, I put in this amount of work, I should be getting an A. I'm like, no, I'm holding the line. By the way, if you want me to regrade a test, it can go both ways, okay?
Yeah, I think
that's fair too.
Well, I was really, I don't disagree with any of that. I think what I was really asking, though, I was more about, like, how do you sort of get a goal for a student, not necessarily a bad student, but a student who says, I want to do this. How do you plan that out, and make sure they get on that track? Because a lot of times I found, I used to teach a lot of non-traditional students years ago, And, you know, they would know they're not doing the best thing for them, but it was, but like you said, my kid has soccer on Wednesday night. I can't take this class. Would it be okay if I took this other one instead? And I wanted them to stay on a target. You know, I wanted them to end up being a malware analyst. I wanted them to stay on that target, and they're like, well, unfortunately, the malware analysis class is on Wednesday night, and I can't go on Wednesday night, so I'm just going to take this, networking class instead. How do you deal with that?
So the way we deal with it is the truth is this: the curriculum is not fully built out the way I want it to yet. But our classes are asynchronous online. Students just need to get things done on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. The professional, the instructor who are professional usually has a virtual office hour in the afternoon or in the evening, so be available to them. But in general, student has a lot of option to take classes, the different classes, but I have offered it to only certain student, not all student, that if they are a professional, they are something that we don't have it available, I'm willing to work with them on a special topic that can push their own learning to the next level. So there are certain things that I can do. Yeah.
Okay. That helps.
Yep. So the way that I think is these lately is, especially now, is the kids are different now. Students coming to us are different. We got to look at how we got to look at how can we be flexible at the same time still upholding the academic standard too. So it's a tricky balance, but we gotta continue to think about it. So looking at it, I have a 16-year-old at home, right? The way he learned is completely different. And I wish, in some way, I wish a lot of more students are like that. Is sometimes is you got to give them a breadcrumb and letting them follow, and some are just not as good at that. And in some way, I blame it on some of the earlier part of their life, and sometimes nobody is forcing them and sitting them down. You got to get this done. There is no easy way out. You got to sit down and figure this out.
Yeah, a lot. Oftentimes, you don't get that till college, Sing Ming, and that's why a lot of students kind of get that shock. Like, what do you mean? Like, no, like, this is like getting real now. And I agree, it's somewhat of a disservice in elementary school through middle school through high school that they're kind of wishy-washy about assignments, deadlines, things like that. Right. And for me, it was a rude awakening. When I got to college, I was like, wait, you mean if I don't turn it in by midnight, it's a 0? And they're like, no, they really mean that. Like, that's just not like a thing.
Yeah, I joke about it. I don't teach that anymore. I used to teach a class called digital logic, a second year a digital logic class taken by computer science and electrical engineering student, and usually about 120 student. And I say, my first class is, I always tell the student is this: I'm a dictator, but I practice something called an open dictatorship, and I will let you ask questions. When I teach a class, it will have two big value. One of them is educational value. And I will make sure that you learn something by the end of the class. But I'm going to teach you something, and it's a 50-50 split in terms of work. I have to teach the best I can, and you're going to have to put work on your end to make sure you learn it too. So educational value is one thing, and the other one is what I call entertainment value, because if a class is not interesting or barely interesting, student is going to fall asleep. And so you got to have both of those to make it interesting. And the truth is this: 20 years ago when I started, I can do so many open-ended stuff in classroom. I can't do as much of that anymore. So,
did you ever read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
Oh, yes.
I promise this is relevant. You did? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
You're literally talking about the same thing that he does in that book, which is that I want to make a class interesting, but I want to make it so that if they're not interested, they're going to self-select out.
Correct.
And once they self-select out, that's their problem.
Yeah, that's always my philosophy too. And plus, and I think it's okay to joke about this. And I call myself a banana. I have been here for so long that I'm completely westernized, but I'm Asian looking on the outside. I grew up in Malaysia, by the way, and have came to this country for 8 years. And so it is in some way my philosophy and kind of how I think about things is kind of like a really good mixture of Western and Eastern thinking. But my friend joke about that. If they poke me deep enough, the Asian of me is gonna come out. So. Wait, I think I can joke about it on myself, right?
I hope it's okay. Doug and I were laughing about that.
We're in trouble now.
perfect.
I had a question for Sin Ming.
Go ahead.
Go
Ming.
ahead.
So, have you? I remember you had some challenges with the junior college getting your program. Have you had to poke any of them to get them to raise the bar and deliver better material to their students, or is that like pissing in the wind, not a good idea?
I try not to go there. Here's why. I have a philosophy in that is the community college should be able to fix their own problem. If they need my help to help them find the people to help them fix it, I will. But here's what it is. I believe community colleges serve developing the workforce, serve the local needs, right? They need to do what is good for that local area, okay? And then what I believe in is I'm not going to go and tell them what to do, but if they need the help for us to go in and help them figure out what they should be doing and what they can and how to go about doing it, I will help them. But then my concentration is I'm going to build a degree box to be flexible. A student that wanted to finish a bachelor degree, I have a way to help them do that without them wasting a lot of credit hour.
Can you just
Bravo.
Could you just yeah, I agree. Could you just tell me real quick? You said degree box a lot, and I think I know what you mean. But could you just clarify what that means?
What it means is, the 120 credit hour, right?
Right.
Usually about 30 something credit hour going to general education credit hour. The classes, there are a lot of flexibility in that, right? And then so our degree box, about 1/3 of it, right, is you can transfer a lot of technical credit hour in. It does not have to match any of the classes that we have. We accept the transfer as long as you finish it at accredited and some kind of accredited community colleges. It will make life a lot simple. And then you just, in some way, just have to complete some required classes with us. Here's what it is because ultimately we're going to have to put a lot of learning and education responsibility on the students' laps too, is because at the end of the day, is their life, their learning, they're going to have to take some responsibility. If they didn't learn it in the previous class, when they walk into a second class, in some way, it's their responsibility to have to go pick it up too and keep moving.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because one of the things, I mean, we have mostly traditional students. So we have, your 18-year-olds and whatnot. And one of the things I've noticed over the last 30 plus years that I've been doing this is a lot of students come in now and that they want you to tell them exactly what to do. They like I've had, when I used to teach computer science 1, I had students who would come in and say, aren't you going to give us a sample program? And I'd never heard of this. When I was in computer science major, they didn't give you a sample program. They gave you an assignment and you figured it out. Yep. And I had students coming in and going, do we get a sample program? And I was like, what does that mean? And they were like, well, like you give us like a copy of the solution and then we have to try to get ours to be the same as that. And I was like, so you mean you're copying mine?
Yeah. And you just tell them to ask ChatGPT.
Do you run into that like now a lot with these non-traditional students? Are they getting into that model too?
Non-traditional student, not as much as the traditional student. They are different. I think it's because the K-12 education, the teacher provide them with so much in some way close to solution. They only have to change a couple of things, right? And there will be students complaining about, for example, you give them a mock-up exam, right? And then you go to the real exam and say, the mock-up exam and the real exam is so far different. In fact, it's the same thing. You are probably asking the same thing, but ask it from a different angle. In some way, the solution is different, but because they didn't study, they didn't prepare, they couldn't see it, then they complain about it is not the same. But let me give you another sample is, I cannot tell you who, but because if I say a bit more, somebody can connect the dot and figure it out, right? And somebody wrote a program, but a bunch of a basic framework, we're giving it to them. But this kid decided, I'm just going to write the whole thing from scratch. But when he turned it in, he was told, you're going to need to fix it. I said, wow, the teacher's test bench doesn't work. How that kid wrote it from scratch, and he have to go in and clean it up to match the teacher's test bench. But why can't the teacher just look at a program and say, wow, you built it from scratch. I got to go in and look at how you do it, and then potentially even give you extra credit for it. Isn't it funny how?
Yeah, I like it when I get those kind of things, and unless I ask them questions about it, and they find I was telling somebody this the other day. I had this kid who, it was a long time ago too, so I'm not giving any current examples, so it's nobody out there listening. This person kept turning in these assignments, and they were just awful. I mean, they didn't work. They were just this horrible mess, and all of a sudden he turns to this. I was like, wow. And I asked him, and I said, can you come in and explain some of this to me? This code is like a little over my head. I need you to. And he was like, okay, I'll admit it. My uncle wrote it.
That's why when I get some, so let's put it this way. When you teach the same class 10 or 15 times, right, you get a little stale, right? But when you got a student come in and talk to you about, can I do it that way? Can I build a state machine that way? You look at it, I say like, oh my goodness, yes, that's a different way to do it. But the way you do it is really messy. It's really difficult for you to check. And this way is less, it may not be as interesting, but what you build is going to work. So, but I'm going to let you decide. But, sometimes a student don't understand the terminology between when you're trying to use a symbol, a capital symbol versus a lowercase symbol. There's a reason for that. It's because, especially in the design world, if you screwed up the symbol, things didn't get connected correctly. If things get connected based on naming convention, right, everything is going to get screwed up. So,
but the best one is to be positive a little bit. The best one is when the student comes in and they write code, and you go, "Damn!" Like, I'm going to make some notes here. Yeah, this is impressive. I had a student once, her name was Larissa, I don't mind telling you. And, she was doing graphics coding with me. And I was like, okay, you're beyond my ability. You're so good at this. It's awesome. Yeah. And I was like, I supervised her independent studies for the rest of her time at the university because she was just like super crazy talented and super crazy interested and super crazy invested in writing that kind of code. And she just took it and ran with it. And, I was just hanging frameworks and saying, try to do this. This would be challenging. And she'd come back in 2 days and ask a few questions. And then she would come back and go, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, wow. Okay. Maybe you should get a job with somebody. And like now.
That's what's so cool, because some student where you just give them some breadcrumb, right?
Yeah.
They can just take it as far as they possibly can, and then they'll come back with another question. The truth is, some of us probably have never done it too, but we have done enough thing to be able to potentially ask them a couple of questions. Sometimes they just needed somebody to ask them some question that they don't think about, and they are ready for the next stage,
Yep.
But I will also want to talk about and go back to Paul's question is the program is, and also the thing is sometimes the technical people may not be the best cybersecurity professional. It is non-technical people, but how do we help those people retrain? And guess what I did? I designed a graduate cybersecurity degree to be able to help anyone and everyone with an undergraduate degree to pivot. And that in itself is a completely crazy concept, but early outcome and success has some of the early student success not coming from IT and cybersecurity background has been shown to be to be very successful. And so
do you think that's because one of the things I always noticed was like in computer science is very kind of rigid. They want, and engineering's worse. I mean, they want people to do it this way because that's the way you do it. And the people that don't come from technical backgrounds tend to just figure things out, and they come up with new methods to do things that are outside the box. And that's what cybersecurity is all about, because that's what hackers are all about. Hackers are not about, I learned how to do this in this very strict way, and I never break those rules. Hackers are like, I'm going to break every rule you got. And so I think sometimes
we have like a goal in mind. we can go learn something, and then go, I'm gonna go do that, and I'm just gonna accomplish my goal, however it needs to be accomplished. And like, I'm not worried about any kind of rules or preconceived notions. And you're right, someone coming from a more traditional computer science background is like, well, I was taught that we have to, declare all of our variables and comment every line and do all that stuff, right?
And hackers don't do that. They just do. And non-traditional people look at that and they go, "Why would you do it like this? It's stupid." And then you're like, okay, you're going to spot the real problems, because a lot of times I think computer science and engineering people are so close to the problem in terms of that's a problem, that's a solution. They don't always see it. And so it sounds like what you're doing is really innovative and cool.
Innovative, in some way, I call innovative, but I like to use the different word called crazy.
Yes. And no, you're right, Sing Ming.
Yeah. And to be crazy sometimes is because maybe you're crazy, or maybe you're too dumb to realize how crazy what the steps is in front of you. You just keep going, and one day at a time or 1 month at a time to get there. And sometimes not to be aware all the things that can go wrong, or don't think too much about it and just keep going and see where it leads you. And ultimately, look, we all have limited working career life or limited career years, right? And what kind of impact would you wanted to make? And I have different idea of what I want to do. It's not what it used to be. It's not just about writing. Have an idea, writing a proposal, and win the proposal to do the work. And it's more than that now. It's much more than that. It's because guess what? I have a comfortable job. I'm a full professor with tenure. And I have a lot of flexibility to do different things a lot of people couldn't. So I should be able to come up with something that, how can I make a bigger impact? The question is, if I can get a kid excited about something, right? Guess what? Almost all the kids has the ability to learn. They just got to get excited about something. And then they'll be on their own. Yep.
You got to hook their interest. If you hook their interest. Yep. I used to be a blacksmith at Historic Village, and I would tell you that if by 4th grade you haven't hooked their interest, you lost them. Until somebody that's exceptional comes along and manages to hook their interest, or nobody does.
Well, yeah, that was my other question for you. It was Josh had said that, and you'd said that earlier. How far back do we need to be going to get kids on this path? And I mean, I know I have an opinion about it, and we've worked on it a lot with like Cyber Patriot and stuff like that. But I was wondering what your take on that was.
Junior high. By the time, if you don't get them at junior high, it's already too late, because by the time they get to high school, most kids has made up their mind. So guess what? Most kids probably have made up their mind in early elementary school, whether they are scared of math or not scared of math. Isn't it scary? And most of them is probably impacted by their parents and family. And by the time they get to junior high, my experience is, if you don't get them at that time, it's probably too late.
I completely agree. I mean, that was what we observed.
But Sing Ming, didn't you structure your program to avoid some of those things, like being scared of math and other things, to minimize some of those things that cause people to opt out of this path? Yes, I basically, because this is cybersecurity program, this is not an engineering computer science program. You do not need 3 calculus. You do not need 3 calculus and differential equation to do cybersecurity. It's more about people, process, and technology. So I basically accept the minimum requirement, math requirement by the university. But guess what? If they wanted to do something else, you know what? I'm going to make the assumption. It could be, let's put it this way. It's a crazy assumption, but I think it's a valid assumption that if you're going to need to go do something, for example, if you want to learn how to do probability in risk assessment, right? You're going to have, if you do not know what it is, go find something, go pick up something, go read, go watch it, go learn it.
I think we tend to not fully define what technical means, right? Because I think there's such a wide variety of technical expertise and knowledge. But I think listening to you folks talk, what it really comes down to is, if I have to somehow get around some kind of encryption algorithm, I may go the hard way and try and look at the math and figure out ways to find problems with the math. Or I can go, what most hackers do is go, oh, you left your key over here in a GitHub repository, and I just took it. Right? That's the difference.
Didn't Microsoft or even what is that, the GitHub, was it GitHub left their private key, right?
Key. It was
this
GitHub.
Is a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yep.
Isn't it cool? There's no point of spending all that time trying to break an encryption algorithm. You know what? We probably just have a creative way, and somebody probably did something stupid. You can find a key. You're done.
Yeah, and I have a theory on that too that I think plays into it, and that is so many hackers have ADHD, and it's we look for shortcuts because if you know yourself in any capacity, right? You're like, I don't have the focus and attention to go attack it that way. So your ADHD brain is constantly going, how do I do a shortcut? Oh, let's see if they left the key over here. And then you can also in that ADHD brain, from what I've learned very unscientifically, I'm not a doctor, I haven't studied it, but I'm like, you go through those multiple troubleshooting things in your brain much more quickly. I think that's one thing that people diagnosed with ADHD do really, and again, I'm not a doctor and haven't studied it, but this is just my assessment.
They go down the decision trees
very quickly,
down the decision trees very fast.
If the key's not there, is it there? Can I get the key this way? What if I do this? What if I do that? And we come up with these troubleshooting things very, very, very quickly. And that lends itself to being just amazing hackers in certain aspects of what we do, right?
Yeah. But I think our time is probably come to an end pretty soon, right? But I want to say one more thing. At the end of the day, right, education is I build a program that is going to scale. It's going to scale. But at the end of the day, education is a really personal thing. If you're listening, if you ever listen to this recording, you wanted to figure out which pathway and how you're going to go about what is your education pathway for you, right? You got to talk to someone. You got to talk to someone to potentially help you figure out maybe computer science is the right pathway, maybe engineering is the right pathway, or maybe the non-technical, non-program cybersecurity pathway program that I offer is the right pathway. You got to talk to someone to figure it out. And the quicker that you figure out, the quicker you're going to be able to get to and get done and hopefully move to a bigger and better thing.
Yeah, and I think that there's a two-way street there, that if you're the person asking the question and seeking advice, you need to listen. I think if you're the person giving advice and you've got a lot of experience in this particular aspect, don't be afraid to make some bold statements, because I guarantee you, all of us on the show, many of us listening are going, meet people and you're going to do well in whatever field you're going after, right. Or I know you and your personality, and are you sure? Right? Trust your instincts in both ways and talk about it. But I think there needs to be a healthy communication, Ming, in what you're describing, for sure.
Yes, because look, my background is really technical with electrical engineering, computer engineering, and bachelor, master, and PhD. Not everybody needs to have that. And most people probably shouldn't have it too, because the more that you have in terms of advanced education, it could potentially limit a lot of your different opportunity too. But for me, it worked out is because I want to be a professor, and the barrier to the entry is a PhD. I got to have it. So, I mean, if you listen to this and I wanted to get my help to help you spend a few minutes and work through what you should be thinking about and what education pathway, more than happy to help. But I do have to pump out a $5 million proposal this week and next week, so it might be a little tough. Guess what? I'm moving on. No, I still have to manage the program, but I'm started my next endeavor because semiconductor is a big thing, and I'm started a new initiative, and I got to find money to do it. It's called Semiconductor for All. How can we get more kids interested in semiconductor? It doesn't mean that you have to be an engineer, but semiconductor need a lot of very different things.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I've been looking at the links that Ming posted in the Discord channel and it's also in our show notes for the information about the graduate and undergraduate program. And if you're wondering what courses, if they're listed, what the courses are, what your choices are, along with a student success course, and I got down to the what does it cost. I couldn't believe it. The graduate program's under 18 grand and the undergraduate's under 15. I mean, I'm thinking that's crazy affordable.
It's a great return on investment.
That's
Yep.
pretty cheap.
You want to know why? It's because
No
because
comment.
I'm not paying myself. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's because I have been able to convince about cybersecurity professional to come in and help me with a specific piece. That is the reason why it's possible for me to run the program that way. And I am forever grateful to a lot of people, whether it's within a university or outside a university, willing to talk to crazy people like me to do this. Trust me, I can do it myself. I got a couple of full-time people working for me. I'm always forever grateful for the work that they do. And I have a lot of people that are trying to keep me sane for me to do other bigger things, but it is what it is.
Sing Ming.
Yeah,
It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I love that we're enabling the next generation, as it were, of cybersecurity professionals.
Thank you, Paul. I'm trying.
I would
Wait,
love
no,
to see
I'm
others
doing it. You
jump
know
on
what?
this.
You're
You
doing
know
it,
what?
man. You're not. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you're doing it.
I'm doing it. You know what Yoda said? Yoda said, "Do not do and not trying."
Do it. Hey, Sing Ming, I just have 5 questions left for you. You ready to play 5 questions with Security Weekly?
Go for it.
3 words to describe yourself.
I am a professor and engineer.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
0 and 1.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
How the hell did I get so lucky to get to where I got to?
What is your favorite hacker movie?
I'm not sure whether this is a hacker movie, but it's the Hitchhiker Guide to Galaxy.
Yes.
That
Good
counts.
one. 42.
Yes.
That counts.
Choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Alive,
Live,
dead,
living,
fictional,
dead, or otherwise.
I'm sorry, I got none because I'm not sure. Because, and that's why my wife told me that I'm crazy because I have some people that I look up to, but I don't have any idol in a way. I'm sorry to not able to answer that question.
It don't have to be an idol. It's just, if randomly you had to pick 2 people to be your parents, they could be fictional characters, real people.
It could
alive,
be. It
dead.
could be Zaphod Beeblebrox. I mean,
Yes.
Oh, I'm okay with that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
There you go.
mm-hmm.
Board Prefect and Zaphod Beeblebrox. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's
thanks
a pretty
for,
good answer.
Thanks for helping me with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the links to your program are in the show notes. Sing Ming, thank you very much for appearing on Paul Security Weekly.
I appreciate it, and thanks for the invite, and that was fun.
Coming up next to the security news. Stay tuned.